Hello everyone, and we are back for another chapter call for the fanfic. The Davos chapter is coming along nicely, it should be done soon, and the Melisandre chapter is being put together as well. And so I felt perhaps it was best to return to Oldtown for Samwell too. That is, Oldtown and Volantis. And so the next Samwell chapter is entitled The Fool, and this chapter is complicated as we're dealing with the Ironborn invasion of Oldtown, the political complexity of Volantis, and news coming in from Slaver's Bay. And so, who is the Fool? Well, for now, let's name him Wigglegrin. That's a placeholder name, make up a better one if you like. Wigglegrin is a slave fool in Volantis, specifically in the Old City within the Black Walls. He is going to look a bit like Patchface with motley tattoos. And in our story, Wigglegrin is going to tell stories for Alios Kadar, the newly elected Triarch in Volantis, a member of the Tiger faction. In case you need a refresher here, Volantis is ruled by 3 Triarchs. They normally have 2 elephants and 1 tiger, but for the first time in 300 years, 2 tigers are elected. Elephants are pro-trade, tigers are pro-war, Alios is elected, and now the tigers are in power. And so, the chapter begins with Wigglegrin finishing a story for Alios and the other Triarchs. Perhaps the story ends with, out of the kettle, the black raven flew and landed on the bastard boy's shoulder. Snow, it screamed, then kettle. And when the votes were tallied, the bastard boy had won the election as Lord Commander of the Night's Watch. The nobles in the room clapped politely, with one asking, "But how did the raven get in the kettle?" And Wigglegrin will very politely, as not to offend, say, "That is another tale." Alios is satisfied with the story and declares that Wigglegrin may live another day. Much like the plot of 1001 Arabian Nights, Wigglegrin must tell a new story every day, or be executed. This is how he has spent years, ever since he was enslaved. With the pronouncement that he may live another day, Wigglegrin is relieved, though he knows he needs more material. He needs to sneak out and visit the magnificent Council of Humorous and Handsome Jesters. Now, as Wigglegrin is a slave, he spends most of his days within Alios's manse, and he finds that generally boring and uninspiring. But when he sneaks out and speaks with others, he hears of their adventures and listens to their stories. That's when his creativity flows. And this is an important belief of Wigglegrin. He believes the mind is like a hen. Alone, what it lays has no life. Now lately, the adventures of Fat Sam have filled Wigglegrin's head, and they have amused Alios and his court. But how many of these stories can he tell? Prior to Fat Sam, Wigglegrin's tales were getting lower in quality. Alios is getting bored, he can tell, and Wigglegrin is fearing for his life. "The mage," a voice inside him says. "Find out about the mage." Wigglegrin agrees with his inner voice. He needs to find Telequo the Farter. At the last gathering of jesters, he mentioned that there was a wizard from Oldtown who came to visit the sister of his master, Parcello Valeros. This sister, by the way, is Lady Nim's mom. And of course, the inner voice, Sam, is trying to see if this mage is Marwyn. Wigglegrin thinks that perhaps there's a story in it or two about this mage. Wigglegrin is told to juggle, and the Volantine Triarchs then begin to discuss the politics of the city. Although they are in Alios's manse, the other 2 men have been given seats of great honor and are accompanied by their own slave guards. Niesos Vesar, an elephant, is first to speak. He's concerned about a slave revolt on the western side of the Rhoyne. They believe it's Vogoro's whore, that is the widow of the waterfront, who has been riling the slaves up. Malaquo Mager, the other tiger, says that revolts happen all the time and that chaos never makes it over the bridge to the eastern side of the city. Still, he wonders what spurred the revolt now. Niesos will say that a merchant from Yunkai had arrived, claiming that Marine stands victorious against the Wise Masters. At least for now. Thanks to Lazar. This strikes Wigglegrin's interest, as he's Lazarine. While the Wise Masters were making war outside Marine, the Lazarines seized on the opportunity. They struck south, avoiding the Kazai Pass, and conquered an undefended Yunkai. The Wise Masters turned their forces around, abandoning Marine, and took the Giscari legions with them. Now they need to retake their own city Yunkai from Lazar. If they can. "Where are our ships?" asks Alios. "Scattered and delayed by storms, according to the merchant," said Necessos. He spotted some on his voyage, he claims, But when they regroup, our forces will not face Marine alone. They will need to wait until Yunkai is liberated. Malakwo will scoff that the words of a sailor cannot be trusted, but Alios will add that his spy master received a rider from Mantaris, who said the same. The most recent reports do say that Marine still stands. But the news is not all grim. Daenerys Targaryen has vanished, as has her king, Hisdar Zoloric. But most importantly, as have her dragons. All 3. Nyesos is puzzled. Vanished? Where did they all go? Alios says that no one is certain. Some say they've died. Some say they've returned to the smoking ruins of Valyria. Others say they've flown east to Ashai. But they have not been seen in the skies above Marine, which is now ruled by Skahaz Mokandak. Skahaz is ardently against slavery, even more so than the Dragon Queen, but Alios will point out that Yunkai's victory is inevitable. Marine's forces are depleted, and the dragons are gone. They cannot stand forever against the united powers of Volantis, New Gis, Yunkai, and Karth. In fact, Marine might have already fallen. This news of Slaver's Bay is likely a month old. Malakwo will say that the fighting and instability of Slaver's Bay is tiresome, and the disruption of the slave trade has been costly. Perhaps it's time for the daughter of Valyria to reclaim her birthright and conquer Slaver's Bay. Nyesos is against sending more soldiers to Slaver's Bay. Such a bold move could alienate their trading partners. And Alios sides with Nyesos. Conquest should wait until after the slave riot is pacified. Regarding the uprising, Nyesos will be troubled. Daenerys Targaryen has disappeared, he will say. What happens if she should return? The Red Temple has never stood against slavery, as it purchases its followers. But now Benero speaks of Daenerys Targaryen fulfilling prophecy. These are dangerous words. He calls himself the Flame of Truth, and his followers believe his lies. If Daenerys Targaryen returns, some may think it'll be from the dead, and Benero will say as much. And that story could cause trouble even in the eastern part of the city. Malakwo then says he has an idea on how to deal with Benero. Benero enjoys the protection of the Tiger Guard in both Volantis and Selhoris. But between them, on the river, he's more vulnerable. Should they offer sizable bounties to the pirates Urho the Unwashed or Korra, while their patrols turn a blind eye to their piracy close to Volantis, they could be rid of the Red Priest the next time he chooses to preach in the north. Nyesos is aghast at the idea of hiring pirates, not believing them trustworthy. But Alios thinks on it and agrees with Malakwo. They then decide to move on to talking about Myr and Lyse. Wigglegrin drops a ball. The Triarchs turn their heads. He bends over to pick up his ball and feels dizzy. The room spins, and by the time he looks up again, it's not the face of Alios he sees, but that of Pate. It's morning, Pate will say to Sam, his hand on his shoulder. Remember, Pate is Jaqen H'ghar. And Pate tells Sam that Rune never returned. Sam looks out the window to see the light of the dawn. He sees the burning green flame on top of the high tower, and fires here and there throughout the city. The Ironborn have been raiding all over the city day and night, fighting with the city watch. But each time the Cobblestone Guard organize and try to rout them out, the Ironborn flee back to their longships. Garland Tyrell is supposedly marching to Oldtown to assist, but Sam doesn't know how he can defeat an enemy that's on the water. The Hightowers themselves are trapped in their tower on Battle Isle, surrounded by Ironborn. The tower is impregnable, but some say the Ironborn have set miners on the island to dig beneath the high tower. It would take months, but perhaps they could tumble the high tower. The City Watch has been protecting most of the Citadel well. The Ravenry, where they reside, even has guards now patrolling its battlements once again. But with the Ironborn raiding up and down the Honeywine, the Maester's acolytes and novices have been fearful of using the bridges. As such, Sam has not seen his friends Robert Frey or Aleros, or even Lazy Leo, in days. It worries him, but it's also freed up time with the glass candle for him and Pate. Their friend Rune was trapped on the eastern bank when the attacks began, and so at night he has been sleeping in either Sam or Pate's bed, whoever is using the glass candle. Sam thinks about where Rune could have gone, and then recalls that the boy confided in him a secret. Rune is sweet on a girl, a novice at a mother house. He likely went out to see if she was safe. And so Sam and Pate decide they need to venture out into the city to see if they can find Rune. They leave the citadel, and the city guard warns them that it's dangerous out there. They will likely get gutted by some squid. Pate and Sam go anyway. They wander in empty streets in the direction of the mother house, calling out Rune's name, but no one responds. People watch from their balconies. They ask if they've seen a chunky boy, a novice of the citadel, but no one seems to have seen him. Finally, they hear Rune call out. He was hiding in a cobbler's shop. Ironborn were everywhere, so he ducked in with the cobbler. Rune says that he has good news. The girl he's sweet on has a great aunt, and she is arranging to leave the city and head north, to Stonehelm, and they'll have a retinue of knights to go with them. This aunt, by the way, is Ravella Swan's great aunt, and the novice is Corellin Smallwood, but this isn't really that important right now. Rune thinks that they should all flee with them. Sam thinks this is a bad idea, and tells Rune that Lazy Leo said that Stonehelm fell to the Golden Company. They would be heading from one war into another. A safer place would be his home, Horn Hill. And then Rune agrees. They should all escape to Horn Hill. All of their friends. Armin, Melander, Robert, Aleras. Maybe he can convince Corellin and her great aunt to go there instead. Sam stammers, not knowing what he just got himself into. Pate says they can discuss things later, and urges that they all get back to the Citadel and the protection of the city guard. Just then, they see Ironborn wandering the street in search of plunder, about a half-dozen men. They are led by a man with a 9-headed serpent on his coat. That is House Saltcliffe. Pate, Sam, and Rune begin to run, but more men appear at the end of the road. They are trapped between them. The Ironborn taunt them as they unsheath their blades and begin to detail how they're going to kill them. They move in, but then they hear the scraping sound of metal on metal. The Ironborn turn, and one is immediately beheaded. Standing there is a large man with white hair, holding a bloody long axe. Then a second Ironborn is stabbed by a sword from behind. Its wielder is a man with a wide-brimmed floppy straw hat. The blades spin, and soon enough, a third Ironborn falls, then a fourth. The two attackers dance back. The man's floppy hat falls off to reveal a bald, shaved head. As the Ironborn try to surround the two men, they stand back to back. The Ironborn strike, but the men's blades block the blows. They take out a fifth and a sixth man. It's enough for them, and the rest of the Ironborn flee. After the battle, the bald man sheathes his blade. It makes a horrible scraping sound, and he picks up his floppy hat and puts it back on his head. "We're looking for a mother house," the big one says in an accent of the Free Cities. Rune is in awe. "You must be the knights, the ones to protect them." The men will look confused, and the man on the floppy hat shrugs. "Well, I'm a knight." Rune tells them that the mother house is down 4 streets and on the right. With 2 nods, the men go off the way Rune told them, the man in the straw hat's sword jangling in its scabbard. And in case you haven't picked up who these 2 men are, it's Hota and Darkstar. Darkstar has shaved his head, and he's carrying the scrape sword's blade. And so Sam, Pate, and Rune return to the Citadel, and Sam waits to see if Aleras will make it back to the Rookery. It's his night with the candle. He doesn't. And so, Sam starts staring into the flame. As Wigglegrin, he finds himself at the side entrance of Alios's manse. He gives the guard posted a gift to let him by. It's a knife, a hunter's blade, well balanced. He gave a kitchen slave some sour leaf and a fistful of honors for it. The kitchen slave had stumbled upon it in a drawer and didn't know what he'd found. But Wigglegrin somehow recognized the fine work at once. The guard lets Wigglegrin out into the city, and he sees black walls clear in the distance. The old city of Volantis is only for the scions of the old blood, they claim. Still, these nobles are seldom seen in the streets. Instead, the old city is filled with slaves doing odd jobs. Gardening, hauling carts, cleaning up horse and elephant shit. Every one of the slaves is an invited guest of the old blood, and without them, the city would fall apart. Wigglegrin makes it to the doors of an old cellar, he rattles off an intricate knock, and the door opens. And inside is the meeting of the magnificent Council of Humorous and Handsome Jesters. To Wigglegrin's relief, Telequo the Farter is in attendance. Now, I'm not going to give too many details on the Council of Jesters here. The idea is that this is a ridiculous cast of characters. Their ceremonies are crazy and funny. The fools in attendance are all wild. But this is what's important. The Council of Jesters has a rule. Everyone tells a story, but it must be true. And then the fools will shift the names and events around on their own when crafting their own tales. exaggerating the details and peppering everything with irony. The goal is for the truth to inspire fable, and so that there won't be any copying. This is to prevent the fools from telling the same stories. The nobles host each other often, and if one says, "I've heard this story before," it could mean death for a fool. And so at some point, Wigglegrin must tell Telequo the Farter to tell the story of the mage. The mage arrived in Volantis and wanted to visit the library of the old city. He knew a Prince of Dorne, and was invited by Lady Nim's mother behind the black walls. If you'd like to slip in here that Lady Nim's mom was the daughter of Maegor, son of Arion Brightflame, that is, Maegor the Sunbird, go for it. A prince, a wizard, a mysterious book. It's clear the jesters are all crafting stories in their heads after hearing the tale. Wigglegrin will then ask if there was a wildling girl with him, or a baby. Wildling girl, another jester thinks. A good idea. Telequo will say that if they were not let into the city. Only the mage was invited. As for other jester tales, include anything you like, though it's fairly important that Lord Sunglass is mentioned. He is going to be the guest of some noble in Volantis, and a fleeing Edric Storm, along with his posse, including Lyness Hightower, would likely seek him out, as one of Edric Storm's protectors, Sir Tristan of Tally Hill, was in service to Sunglass. Also, it's important that one of the jesters works for a follower of R'hllor, and that's because Wigglegrin has a scheme. And so it then gets to Wigglegrin's turn. He pauses, and Sam, as his inner voice, tells Wigglegrin to tell the story of the Ironborn invading Oldtown, of how nobles are trapped atop a great tower and men are mining beneath it. But then Wigglegrin looks at the jester who works for the follower of R'hllor, and then he thinks of Lazar. He then defies Sam and begins to lie. He says that he heard the Triarchs speak of Slaver's Bay. The story of a prophecy is going around, perhaps one out of the Green Grace's temple. When the flame of truth is snuffed out, the dragons shall return. And there it is. Good luck writing, and we'll see you next time.